At 10:30, we have possibly another lookover game for Washington. Stanford, which is 1-1, traveling to number 18, Washington, which is 3-0. Washington favored by 13.5 points on FS1. Tanner McKee for Stanford has gone 42 of 62 early on, thrown for 528 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. E.J. Smith on the ground has had 30 carries for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Michael Wilson has had 7 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. Michael Penix Jr. for Washington has gone 70 of 106, thrown for 1,079 yards here early on, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. Wayne Taulapapa has had 35 carries for 187 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jalen McMillan has had 16 catches for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns. This series is tied up exactly 44-44. Last game went to Washington in 2021, and the last Stanford victory was in 2020. What I think is going to be really kind of fascinating here is, again, Washington plays UCLA next week, right? And that's going to be a big game for them. It's a chance to win against a Pac-12 team that a lot of people consider to be probably the third best team in the South, but a good team in the South, and one of the better teams in the Pac-12 this year. A lot of people consider UCLA to be pretty good, so Washington could be looking over this Stanford team, but the Stanford team is not exactly bad. Tanner McKee is a pretty good QB. Their only loss on their resume so far is USC, and it's not like that's an awful loss to have. They didn't play awfully against USC. This is not a bad Stanford team by any stretch of the imagination. I think they could give a little bit of a fright to Washington this week. The Huskies are a good football team, don't get me wrong. I think they're very good and have a great chance of winning the North this year. But I do think Stanford puts a little bit of a scare in them today. I think Stanford travels up to Washington, and I think this is a very close game. I think Washington ekes it out in the end, but I think Stanford covers the 13.5 point spread.